So World Fencing Day's theme this year is sustainability. I've talked a little bit about how reducing single-use plastic by using more water bottles and using the cold water fountains in venues can help. I guess that's one way athletes can do their part.
Yep.
What do you think companies can do to do their part as well?
I mean, there's absolutely loads that companies can do, and I think the first thing that we did is, if you take a step back and you look at your business as a whole, what are you doing, what has the most environmental impacts, and then basically create a list starting from the top, what's the worst, going down to the bottom, and seeing where you end up. So probably a year and a half ago we started this process. First we looked at packaging. I saw that great documentary that you might have seen on the BBC about all the plastic in the water.
Yep.
So our plastic bags, and I thought we were doing a really good job because we were buying plastic bags to protect the whites that were made from degradable material that was made from recycled plastics. So for example, this one, which sounds great, but what they actually mean is kind of marketing rubbish, in effect, is that over 100 years, this material will break down into small, tiny bits of plastic and be a nightmare. So you sometimes think that you're doing quite a good job, but when you actually look and investigate more carefully, it's actually a terrible job. So now we've moved over to compostable materials. So like that's this stuff. It looks like plastic and feels like plastic, but this will basically biodegrade in normal sort of conditions to basically go back into the soil, and then you can grow stuff from it. The slight problem is, if you take this plastic and you put it in a plastic recycling bin, what happens is it affects the plastic so that the plastic can't then be recycled into nice new plastic. Okay. So with compostable materials, it's important that you put them in normal rubbish or in compostable bins. So there's kind of this whole level of confusion that governments really need to address to try and educate people so that they make sure that they're putting things in the right, putting the right plastics and the right things in the right places. I think that is a big problem.
Okay. That's really interesting, this. I've never seen this before, actually, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is the first time you guys brought it through. What other things do you think the company can do looking forwards? I think this is a great initiative, a great move for you guys. Talking about maybe the clothing, you think there's a way to, or the bags, for example, to make that a little bit more environmentally friendly?
So the clothing is a tricky one. Fencing clothing, especially the FIE high-level stuff, tends to use Dyneema, which is it's kind of like a plastic that you use in fishing lines. So it's incredibly strong, but it doesn't break down very easily, and it's plastic again. So after doing a bit of research and talking to some of the other companies, one of the main things, really all I think you can do with it is like the FIE recycling scheme, where they're taking FIE old kit and then donating to clubs. I think that's a really great initiative. And then after, when the jacket is completely unsuitable for fencing, really it's insulation for walls is basically the best you're going to get. But bags, like you mentioned, trying to minimize the size of bags so that you're taking up less space when you're traveling, especially on airplanes.
Yep.
That will make a big effect. And then just, I think, looking at the ways that we might use energy supply in the creation of products. So for example, using renewable energy where possible to do the forging. They use a lot of electricity to make the to generate some of the equipment, and the gas to create the heat. Trying to find sort of better and more responsible ways of creating the energy.
Oh, nice. I think it's really cool that a company like Leon Paul, you guys are really focused on the quality, obviously. It's so important when I'm competing to have that, but you're also looking ahead for the future. What is it that is kind of driving you to be more environmentally friendly or more sustainable?
I would say having kids made me rethink it a lot, which sounds silly, but I've got two young children, and they made me sort of think more about the future and what's the world that we want them to live in. I have this strange nightmare where my son is in a in a rubbish dump, and he finds a marging sword. And this is true, and a blade, and he's like, "Dad, what's this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a broken marging blade." And he's like, "Oh, what? You spent all that time making it in your factory, and then someone just chucked it in the rubbish?" And it's like, "Yeah." And I'm trying to explain that to him, and I can't. And I just think that's a criminal. And I kind of think that we got to get away from that and look at how we can either, melt down swords and remake them. Make them so they don't break in the first place, repair them, same with masks, same with all of this stuff, so that we're not just a society where we just get something, have a bit of fun with it, and then it just goes in the bin and it's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
We need to be responsible for that problem right until the end. And it's kind of, my kids are what's driving me to try and change this company to make it the best possible company it can be.
Nice. That's really good.
Cool. Well, so, thanks very much for your time,
Yeah,
and
thank you very much.
good luck.
Cheers.